So I'm not sure how many of you outside India that this was the, irrespective of which country you are, this was the largest project in the world. And as the project managers or the project professionals, we should be aware quite about this largest identity management project in the world. I'll repeat, in the world. Because 1.3 billion population to be covered wasn't the easy thing to do. So about me, guys, I think many of you probably know me. Got about 26 years of experience in the world of project management. Overall industry, various programs, projects, portfolios, project management by profession, by passion as well, right? My passion is the project management as well. A PMP, certified PMP, and some agile certifications with me. So this AADHAAR project, is also called, it used to be called UID, Unique Identifier or Unique Identity Project. Okay. Let me give you a little bit of introduction. Most of you heard about this any which ways. I thought I'll give you some more insights and details, the way I studied about the entire case study in the way the project management is supposed to be done, right? From the perspective of, from the lens of the project management, or from the PMI, PMBOK lens. How do I see it? When great Nandan Nilekani probably relook at it from a PMBOK perspective, how would he look at it? The great chairman of UIDAI, right? Let's look at look at certain aspects of what's about this project, what the project entails, what were kind of scope of the project, how the stakeholder and communication management was done in such a large project, what were the challenges and project issues. Was obviously such a large scale project to cover 1.3 billion population, not an easy task at all by any means. So let's look at certain aspects of this, right? As I said, world's largest biometric ID system. What is this? Very simple. Okay, it's a proof of residence and not citizenship. Please understand this. There's a difference between the two. It's a proof of residence. It's used in applications which can have you evidence of your residence proof. Started by the agency which was formed by Government of India called UIDAI, and I'll talk more about it as I go. It's set up in 2009. Project started in 2010. Very well known 12-digit unique number, right? Spaced 4 numbers each, 3 triplets. So sorry, 4 triplets, 1, 2, 3, 4. So 3 quadruplets, 12-digit number issued by UIDAI to every resident. That was the original goal of the project. Talk about objectives quickly. It was initiated, the project initiation was done as part of project initiation process with the intent to provide a universal, see the intent, universal, okay, universal, that's a very important word, identity. Probably a couple of ways. You could either have the authentication like the biometric, which means you might have iris scan and the fingerprints, or the demographic information, and everybody could probably have a unique ID and authentication against the ID, or combination of both. In this case, go into a combination of both, right? Something that you know, something that you have, something that you are from your personal identity perspective. UIDI tasked with the responsibility of managing this 1.3 billion unique IDs created, generated, maintenance, setting up the infrastructure, maintaining the numbers over the period of time, not just for completing the project, but running the project for a period of time and handing over to the agencies to run continuously under the umbrella, right? We used to call AADHAAR cards, where we all know pretty well. Why? What was the business case on the project? What was this business case all about? The other project, obviously, right? People didn't have a unique, every bank, for example, right? Every government entity would probably have its own unique, account number, right? And every bank would have its own unique authentication given. And there was nothing called KYC those days. Know your customer. Every bank has its own procedures, right, for the account number perspective. So there was one pain that not every people have a unique identifier, which can, wherever he goes, can produce that and show within India, oh, this is the valid proof. I exist. I am I. Who are you? I am I. Right? Another reason for it was to help improve the e-governance services. So within the country, the government of India were rolling out a lot of services, and so in order so as to not duplicate the multiple authentication mechanism, multiple identification of the person across various services, this was a boon. This was a classic hell created by the government agencies, and obviously to reduce the fraud and corruption, no doubt about it, because it would be managed, given, authenticated using a centralized infrastructure and using or monitored by the central top level authority, protected by government of India. At present, there are many identity documents in the country, isn't it, that we all do, PAN, passports. In most of the applications that I see now, they ask either one or two. Mostly only one. If you have an Aadhaar card, that's sufficient enough generally. For international transactions, passports, obviously. For Aadhaar was primarily for Indian geography. While the Aadhaar does not replace them, but it can be used as a sole identification for sure. As I said, the initiation happened 2009. The project started in 2010. The kickoff happened in 2010. But the concept was first discussed with something called EGOM, Group of Ministers Committee, which was created, right? Empowered group of ministers. So those people first time met in 2006, and over 3 years, they discussed, debate, and took a lot of decisions among themselves. There was a committee which was created at the top, headed by the Government of India officials. Obviously, who else but just the great National Informatics Center at the core, NIC. You might have known this already. This was supposed to be implemented in only 12 months period. Such a huge project. I probably wouldn't have heard about 12 months at all, any point in terms of such a accretion. And there was a other thought process by the steering committee group. There was another database which was getting created called NPR. I'll talk about that in more. Talk about that more. The National Population Register. So what they did, they had the NPR in place. So this project was supposed to integrate and give you a unique UID. So you don't have a two different. NPR will have its own ID, UID will have its own ID. No, it will have a single ID by integrating both the databases. There was a need which was established. Have a single identifier. Project objectives: provide a common website solution which could include the registration of an individual at the back end, provide them with the card that could be earlier used to be paper, but now it's a plastic card, and complete the entire administration process through the automatic ways or automation process. An individual can register and log in to the system anytime, okay, and get authenticated. An individual can get complete information of the Aadhaar card, its importance, can check the other status, valid, invalid, etc., and update the data. Update a mobile number linked to the Aadhaar card. So that's the responsibility of the central monitoring authority called UIDAI, right? And they set up, under them they set up various committees. One of them was the technology committee. Individual will get a unique identity due to its new technology, biometric and demographic features. Any person can register in their own state language, not necessarily only the English language, but any language. You know what, guys? This project was originally thought through for BPL kind of project, below poverty line. But then they said that, no, I think this would be very useful, not only just for the BPL families, originally thought through by the Department of IT in 2006, but it would be across. So NIC was given the mandate to implement, and the Wipro in India, such a great company, they provided a strategic vision for this entire project. Okay, Wipro was a company who provided the strategic vision for this. In fact, there were the consultants also which were hired. Wipro also was a design phase consultant and the program management for the pilot phase of UID project. And under the authority of UIDAI, they created this entire body or a steering committee, and they did a lot of committee meetings over a 3 years period to have these decisions taken. And if you look at your website on the UIDAI, you'll find a lot of events which have occurred from 2007 to 2009. Okay, so let me just quickly skip. Technology used, by the way, a very quick overview in case you guys are interested in a technology or a backend used here. Front end was very simple front end. I'm sure you would. Oh, only this much? Yes, only JS, JavaScript, PHP, HTML. Today you have HTML5. Those days you didn't have HTML. You have original HTML, right, with CSS3. So you had a backend of MySQL. MySQL is a very, very effective platform. It's a backend database. And at times even I wonder, why not Oracle as a backend? So thought process was very simple. They want to keep it at a simple, and they can, yes, over the period of time they'll migrate over as the scale progresses. And this is the kind of hardware and software they used typically. Okay, if I now relook at it today's, right, the minimum, this has gone to 4 drives. If I look at it today, if you look at this kind of versions originally that they used, these are all outdated. Of course, they have all upgraded now, no choice, to the great 2016 and 2019s of the world. The project mission and the scope. The mission of the project was to issue the UID number, simple, to 1.3 billion people, right, which can be verified and authenticated in an online cost-effective manner. It was focused on the poor, the marginalized, as I said, the BPL families and underprivileged. But over the period of time, they realized that no, there are so many people who go through the crisis of, a PAN card, driving license, credit card, passport, etc., etc., etc. And they even find it difficult to open a bank account, not just the BPL people, but other generic people also, or get a mobile phone to do a KYC, know your customer kind of formality. So it was big, extended to the end. All the people initially going from 200 million to 600 million, and then covering up the entire 1.3 billion. Surprisingly, you know what? India had 100 to 120 million migrants when the project kicked off into 2010. There are almost like 100 to 120 million migrants, and the numbers expected to increase due to the development. The country was really developing, and there was an integral migrant. Now that was one of the unique challenge of migrant workers migrating from state to state or country to country. We'll probably talk about that in challenges. So the scope of the project, very clear scope. First, I don't need to talk to you about this at all, right? It's very simple to understand. Second, again, already spoken about it. This was part of the SOW, statement of work from Government of India, right? Unique database, one single database, no duplication on data records. Unlike your supply chain in the business, where the marketing team would have a different database, finance team would have a different database, each would have their own legacy systems until somebody says that, oh, I want to implement ERP database now, or ERP system, which calls for a single Oracle or SQL databases. It was a single database like that. No more duplication of data related to people. That was a requirement created in the SOW, statement of work. Capture the demographic and biometric, as I already explained you, right? Details, including iris scan and fingerprints identified. Remove the overlap, already spoken to you. Remove the overlap, that means integrate both the register, both the databases, something in UID and something in National Population Register. No two records, only single record, come what may. Try out to unify the entire, try to remove the duplicates, and lots of retuning, refining things had happened. Part of the scope of the project. I'm sorry, there was some additional bullet by mistake. In fact, there was nothing, no point actually. But the org structure, the project headquartered in the capital city of India, usually 8 regional offices, which was primarily created for it, for the respective cluster monitoring, right? I think it was obviously Bangalore being a technology center, Chandigarh, Delhi, Hyderabad, Guwahati, Lucknow, Mumbai, and Ranchi, Jharkhand capital. So these were the 8 different regional locations across India which were created. And the headquarters had Mr. Nandan Nilekani of ex-Infosys as its chairman, right? And there was a structure created with Director General called DG, right? And there was DDGs, multiple DDGs, or we call Deputy Director Generals, at a level of the Joint Secretary, who were charged of various wings, right? Like, for example, finance wings, the the taxation wings, the administration wings, etc., etc. Staffing wing. So every wing had this DDG, They all reported to one DG, and the great DG reported to Nandan Nilekani as the chairman of the UIDI. A technology center were created in Bangalore, right? We call TDU, and this unit comprises of experts in various operating environment like technology, legal, procurement of hardware and software. The unit was quietly, very ably supported by great volunteers, people who took sabbaticals to just got introduced to this. You would wonder why the great coach chairman of Infosys or a partner in Infosys from one of those 7 partners left Infosys and joined this UID. Probably not the right forum to probably talk about this, but read those news. You'll be surprised how can a servant in a private entity form such a great organization, right? Number 2 in India now. He's joining the government of India entity altogether, where the structure will be different, the culture will be different, the kind of nuances of the politics will be different. Heads off to the gentleman. And when I heard about this, in fact, he was, he spoke a lot on the PMI platforms, and he captured on the video series also in the PMI website. If you go, you'll find this Nandan Nilekani's video only on this particular topic, and many of these contents will gel with those videos as well. But yeah, that was a complete different ball game. When you probably hear those videos or read the video, read the content about it, amazingly a different thought process by Nandan, right? The great heads off to this gentleman anyways. So the technology center was created to ensure that you have all the departments in terms of the procurement, hardware, software, etc. Plus, in addition to the data center, a common central data center for the country, which is again created in Bangalore, whereby all your centralized servers, where your biometric data of UIDI is stored, just like your text processing center, right, managed by TCS, and the central processing center, which has been managed by TCS in Bangalore, like that. UID also had this kind of a center managed by, and of course the whole project went to Infosys. I'll talk about that. Wipro did the design work, Infosys did the kind of the support work for them and implementation work. So they created something called PMU, Project Management Unit. This unit had been set up to complete, the need for your core team of experts in various areas of operations to kickstart the ideations process and provide a guidance on the areas of technology, legal, procurement of hardware, software, preparation of a detailed project report, and you won't believe a great deal of all the 10 knowledge areas those PMP certified folks would have already learned by now, right? Which include the entire integration management, scope management, schedule management, cost management, quality management, risk management, communication management, stakeholder management, procurement management, etc. All these knowledge areas were implemented by the PMUs, the PMU project management unit, which was created. And Nandan Nikali himself, he came from the Infosys background, so he knew what is the importance of PMU. And there was center of competence, we call it a center of excellence nowadays, COE. Center of competence was a unique department established whose job was to specify initial biometric system and from time to time enhance the system to introduce new technologies and the best practices or the methodologies as you go along. It cannot be a static, it has to be dynamic as per the needs, right? Or as per the changes happening across. So they kept it very vigilant. So this state-of-the-art center also create a lot of databases in terms of we call organization process assets, or a lot of documentation, whether it's related to process related document, the ID captured document, or any other documentation. Such a huge project could have various types of documentation which needs to be archived. I remember there was also a department, because I years back I was privy to it. In fact, when I was I got introduced to world of NISG, right? So NISG, yeah, that could be the next point. Probably I might have missed out. Was something like National Institute of Smart Governance. So the team, the PMU was established with this great institute's help, with whom UIADAI entered an agreement with in 2009. So there is a institute called Smart Governance Institute, or we call NISG, and they did a tie-up. UIDAI did a tie-up or signed up an agreement with them. That could be the next point. I probably will include that here. Now, having said that, the core heart of any project, and in this type of kind of projects, right, where stakeholder management has to be ubiquitous. So many stakeholders. If I ask you to create a list of stakeholders right now, you might take 30 minutes. An important aspect of any stakeholder management is identify stakeholders as early as possible and engage them in the game so that you win their confidence. One of the the most crucial stakeholder were the state government authorities, state government ministries, and those respective departments for Nandan Nilekani. So I'll talk about how did he manage those stakeholders? How did he engage those stakeholders? How did you communication become a very important part and parcel of your stakeholder management? So he developed the PMU, Project Management Unit, developed an effective communication management plan. When I say effective, that means implementable, right? Implemented. When effective plan is implemented, it becomes efficient, right? There was a strategic shift from our entire culture of a private sector, because not only Nandan Nilekani, a lot of people, a lot of volunteers, sabbatical folks who got from sabbaticals joined here. A lot of companies, a lot of people came from this company. Right? I know HCL used to manage in India. Did a large project on the hardware implementation. I know what kind of a challenges they went through, changing of a culture altogether to get into the government of India culture. But heads off to the entire culture within government of India, and this was kind of a another project after Delhi Metro, which got successfully created. So last time I did a case study on Delhi Metro, I thought I'll do this case study, which was one of the, in fact, it's the largest in the world today in terms of identification management system. So stakeholder management, it's a very important piece within this is identification of stakeholders, right? So to do that, the Nandan Nilekani and team used the brainstorming sessions. So he collected a lot of steering, he created a lot of steering committee meetings, and he brainstormed enough about the stakeholders. Who could be the potential stakeholders? Is it the typical definition of a stakeholder, like any individual or group of individuals or any organization, group of organizations who directly or indirectly impact the project objectives or get impacted by projects? No. Say that let's thoroughly use this framework of a stakeholder management, but thoroughly do a screening of, are they really the stakeholders in the game? It took a lot of sessions on this through the brainstormings. And when I talk about cultural change, I don't need to talk about this altogether, because the stakeholders came from a different culture mindset, different people came from different mindset. It was very difficult to engage them as a part of stakeholder management. Very difficult. But yeah, he tried to smoothen it out. He failed at times, he succeeded at times. There were a lot of lessons learned around it. Various communication media. So he invited a lot of media folks to publicize the importance of this project and why they should support this project, rather than they say, oh, why my fingerprint need to be taken. All 10 fingers, 10 footprints, 10 fingerprints are all required. This is so boring. Can't one or two enough? First, thing to be engaged and managed. Expectations management of end users. Before that, there were some enrollers and many things. If I really, if I really guys go in detail of this project, it will at least take me 2.5 hours. Believe me, it is so detailed and so vast. There's so huge nitty-gritties about it. The first kind of a stakeholder after the government of India, or sorry, state government folks, were nothing but the enroller agency or enrolling agencies along with those consultants. So the only way to do is do a mass communication through the media, various channels, radio, televisions those days. Of course, and the internet was booming, of course, in 2009, 2000, no doubt about it. So through the internet mediums as well. Early engagement of the stakeholders, as I said, could be the winner strategy. Most difficult part, I don't need to explain you this, right? Most difficult part, to educate and engage. Educate and engage and then manage the rural public, right? I can still engage educated person. The people who are semi-educated or probably unskilled workers, laborers, or people. How do I, or BPL guys? How do I engage? How do I communicate this message that you have a single ID? So when you look at his videos, it's amazing videos, by the way. Kind of challenges he's gone through. I'll talk about it in a moment. Yeah, that's the next slide of mine anyways. Talk about challenges or issues that were faced in a project. First, obviously, such a large project, my friends, logistics would be an obvious challenge, no doubt about it. Logistics of managing all the central repositories, collecting the data from so many different units to the 8 respective regional offices and then to the central data center in Bengaluru. Not a task, not a simple task from the end user 1.3 billion to one single data center in Bengaluru. Probably the biggest logistic challenge I would ever have heard about. More than logistical challenge of that Delhi Metro project, which I took up last time in terms of case study. Enrollment, second challenge, obviously. Enrollment of 1.3 billion people. How do I track? How do I ensure no duplicates? How do I ensure that there are no false data available? Oh, that's another interesting. Forget duplicates. How do I ensure that people don't do crime on this? I know what you I know what you mean by crime, right? So the third one, and probably very important, end user adoption, right? Why do I adopt this method? Probably I have not included that here, but end user adoption was the biggest challenge. End user engagement, hence enrollment, and being used by them. You see that they use it. The fourth one, of course, I probably missed out this one. The fourth one was adoption of the designated number. Adoption of that 12 digit. Biometric and photographic records, capturing records, creating enough point of presence devices, and capturing those record through systems. At times, a lot of devices are failed, and all of you who go to a normal voting process, you're one, or you go to the post offices for that matter, for your mapping your mobile numbers to the other, or do a changing, whatever you do a biometric authentication. My first and second instance never go through. My fingerprint is so unique, or those devices are gone so old, I need to maintain, replace such a huge administrative disorder in terms of challenge. Identifying enrolling centers. Who would be ready? Would the schools, the primary, secondary schools would be ready to enroll people? Would the civic agencies would be ready? Private companies would be ready? Just like your COVID centers. How do I enroll more and more COVID centers for vaccines? Same thought process for enrolling centers. So they develop a criteria for enrollment of centers. And there were very nitty-gritties into each of the criteria. Eradication of duplicates and fakes, as I told you already. That was another challenge. First, identify duplicates. It's not as simple as look at a, do a VLOOKUP. I wish then Excel would help in one shot to the VLOOKUP. It was much more complex than that. And fake records. This is amazingly beautiful. Anyway, maintaining, this is the big challenge. And I think today, it's proven to you and I both, this is the challenge. Why should I disclose my identity? Because in India, people have now become educated from the education that the great developed countries like United States has given, the privacy of individual, which people didn't have that kind of an education. I'm not talking about other education, but I'm talking about privacy parameters. Why should my data be private? Why should I not trust WhatsApp data? So a good amount of education has happened. And this was another challenge. I'm only giving you a few of the biggest challenges. There could be n number of challenges, issues, which actually got ruled out or mitigated, taken care of, resolved, some were parked. Creation of the criteria. On what basis I'll give you ID? Creation of the criteria initially. How do I define 12 digit? Is there a method in the madness? Inclusion of private MNC firms with government firms. Classic PPP project, public-private partnerships, a unique model. And thanks to this project, through which a lot of PPP projects happen in the country. This is another thing. Right to Information Act, that means everybody was worried. Against this act, you and I have got all the rights to look at a database, go to RTI, and get any information from anybody. And then what happens to privacy? What happened to the numbers? So they created a law. They created a law against that. Numbers on RTI would be kept secret. This will be confidential. Against the Confidential Information Act, RTE would not entertain that. You need that, right? I just go and probably take your number. Simple. And do a misuse. Right? UIDAI didn't have any mandate to proceed beyond 200. But thanks to the lot of steering committee discussions happened in 2007, 2009, they went off. They thought to know entire country should be ideally covered. As I say, 200 million to 600 million, and then to the entire 1.3. This was another challenge. Should we only trust UID database or National Population Register? Solution was very simple. Integrate them. Don't trust anybody. Just integrate. So there is one single unique database maintained. And when I say privacy concerns, talk about the security concerns as well. 100%. So the project planning, quickly guys, I'll probably try to wrap up in 5 minutes. The way the project was planned, Mr. Nandan Nilekani, as I already mentioned, so he created various sets of teams. I'm covering at a high level in the interest of time. Various teams were set up across 8 regional offices, and there was a central steering committee. The PMU was set up to monitor the entire progress of the project, as I said, and a PMU was actually from a center of excellence, project management centers of excellence, PMCOE. This terminology came to IBM originally. If you look at the 97, this PMCOE was the word coined by an IBM in those days. 20 years they ruled through this word. It was so useful. A lot of companies started using it. Right? E&Y was appointed as a consultant for identify managed service provider. Right? And then the role of UID was quite identified, detailed out what all it will do in various pages. The application development vendor was selected, and then the proof of concept or the prototyping of the system with a unique set of a data to be tested with a unique equipment or the that POP device was being done, and the POC was done in a sample. It was a real statistical sample out of the entire population of 1.3, right, based on demographic aspects. Risk management, when such a project you believe there might be more than 1,000 risks, I agree with you. Risk management process was thoroughly defined and designed. Types of risks, absolutely. A technology risk, no doubt about it from the risk management standpoint. Anything related to a technology not working, upgradation, right, sustenance or a maintenance from a maintenance standpoint, what you call outdated technologies. That's another risk, to keep maintaining the latest version of the software, hardware, etc. Enrollment risks. The people enroll. How do I ensure, first of all, everybody has been enrolled to my project, right? Right. So since enrollment, as I said, right, enrollment was not compulsory, but voluntary. It's a demand-led approach and not a push approach, right? So the teams used to say, once the Aadhaar rolls out with many partners, the benefits of having Aadhaar would be quite high, and people would obviously, so the risk would reduce as the adoption increases or as the rollout goes on, as the media communicates to the public. It would be an obvious thing to do. But then adoption risks, as it rolls out, people don't adopt, people don't use it. All right, how do I make sure people use this? I can't force people. I can just educate. I can just influence people. I can give examples of developed countries. Probably, though at a lesser scale, those countries, because of their population, maybe, but the technology used over there, etc. I can probably just use whatever methodology to get the adoption. The adoption risk were high, any which ways. Logistics risk. Task of collecting the data of a biometric and demographic, photographs of the people, and the other details in a very short period of time. If you talk about a 1-year project, it's crazy. Even for 200 million people in the first lot, can't be done in 1 year probably. Right? Initial estimate on a budget perspective when the project was started in 2010 was about what? Around 4,000 crores INR. Around 4,000 crores, that was a budget. So budget itself is a risk. What happens if the 4,000 crores is not going to be enough or sufficient enough at this point of time, right? So the next part was project execution. I'll probably talk about this in 2 minutes and what the methodology and execution side of it. When the project started execution as per the plan, right? The project initially was delayed. It was planned to, planned to end in September 11. Where 16.7 million people will be covered for first phase 1, of course, in that 12 months. However, only 27% of 16.7 million were covered. That's all. The project was delayed, but obvious reasons. Such a large-scale project, right? Obviously, would be delayed. No doubt about it. So many different variables. One. Approximate 70,000 enrollments happened through the day in the execution of the project. And then, even with the 70,000, which they did, probably against the plan of 120,000, The project was 6-month delay. You know, whenever I talk about 27% of the population, which is almost like 5 million, which was enrolled out of this identified lot of 16 million. When I say that only 70,000 enrollments happen in a day, yeah, this is the pace at which the remaining progress also would proceed unless you try to improve few things. So then there was a monitoring and control which occurred through the UIDAI. They increased the daily enrollments to 1.25 million over a period of time. So by January 2012, they completed 1.25 lakh people. Right? Number of machines they had to increase, the POPs and the central infrastructure also. Actions, non-performers, no, get lost. So very strict actions, just like in that probably Delhi Metro case as well. Dr. Sridharan would have taken similar actions. 10 agencies got involved in the enrollment process in the project execution. They also replaced non-performing agencies. By early 2010, a successful completion, first time 100 million planned and another 100 million only in next 2 months. In the 2 years they completed 100 million, and in next 2 months, this is the lovely project crashing. They plan for next 100 million. 2 years and 2 months. See the comparison, right? This was the process, and I'll stop on the process here. I've got various slides as well. So the first capture is the end user data. First point, it starts here, where you have a centralized, right, recording system, which ensures that they validate the data and verify and validate the data both. They do a deduplication, which means they remove the duplicates through the verification of this unique number. And once the data is single data, a unique data, they assign the identifier. Okay, so once the enrollment agency registered to do the data capture, there is a logistic partners, of course. Who else? India Post, right? Who else? Such a huge presence in India. India Post was the logistic partner who would deliver those respective data to those centralized agents, and those people would process it and give it back, that data, one to the India Post back, and two to the enrollment processing at the same time. And then along with that, your Aadhaar number, which is generated here, is given to registrar. Okay, here in this process, they churn through it. Okay, and then they validate that with the registrars. They register them formally and then give it back to the processor. And once that is processed, they again give it back to India Post, which again go back to registration. So this loop whole was customer supported by customer care unit. If there are any rejections, this will reject to a written receipt by the registration. Then you again register. So a very simple process of enrollment. And if there are any challenges or issues, there would be customer care to take care of it. And the committees where all their respective teams or support teams would solve the problems as soon as possible. That's our application process. I have detailed right on it. The last probably I'll cover is a application of this Aadhaar. Many of you know, in fact, all of you would know what the applications are. First, as a proof of your own identity and your address. Second, it gives you that authority on any digital platform to authenticate using your UID. For example, if I'm using a brand new, what do you call, stock market application, if I enroll into it, let's say Zerodha in India, and then probably I will just need that simple UID authentication for that matter to log into Zerodha account. That's all. Aadhaar is a paperless, online, anywhere, anytime, anywhere entity. Random generated number that doesn't depend on the caste, creed, religion, geography. So it's applicable across the entire country breadth. All KYC of the bank, one of the biggest applications. Know your customer. And then various e-governance services, as you may know. All the subsidies. Now, this is one of the very interesting application. You get a lot of subsidies also, like LPG connections. For BPL people opening a bank account, right? The mobile connection. So that is for everybody now, of course. And using a travel. And many more applications. Okay. So, guys, I'm going to hold for here. There are a lot of other slides also, which I may not want to bore you with. I am sure you would know about these benefits. You could have, but I would like to take some questions actually, rather than I talking to you in the next 5 minutes. So if you can open your chat box and ask questions if you have, be mostly welcome. In fact, I will just display the last slides on about Prathars, right? This is about Prathars. This is the one number that you can always keep, email ID or the contact number for you for your benefits, right? So you can always keep that with you guys. The presentation is not available, not been shared generally, but this is a recorded session, so you can always view the presentation, no problem at all. Most welcome. PDU code, Rakesh. Yes, I knew somebody would ask, and I'm ready with it. 1 second, I'll give you. While I give you PDU code, let me release just a couple of questions for you. If you can just help me with the voting. Can you see the poll in front of you? Is it allowing you to do what? 1 second. Yeah, it allows. Yeah, thanks. While I give you PDU code, you can keep giving those feedbacks quickly. That will give me a response to what you think about this altogether on the UID project. Let me just give you a code back. I'm just looking at my message, which is created. A moment. Feel free to type questions. Our REP number is 4032. Q, typing it as I said, it's 0O5DI. 5DI. There you go. Oh, there was a third question as well, by the way. Yeah. Any more questions from you? I did type, Rajkumar, did you see that in the chat? 1 second. Okay, sorry, my mistake. I restricted up to only panelists. Okay, I'm typing it again. Give me a moment. I'm typing it again for your benefit. (4032) Q0O5DI. Now you get it. So it's only selected panelists. So now it's 2 attendees as well. Any more questions? I know It's a very generic case study, but I really wanted to capture the details of it. I'm sure you might not have a question because this is a very common project, but I wanted to give a little bit of a project management touch in 45 minutes as much as I can. Uh, a PMP certified professional can only do this much. Talk about PMP knowledge areas, right? And the way I look at from the knowledge area perspective, the entire project. Senthil, most welcome. No problem at all. Yeah, there are a lot of learnings until if you do other Google, if you search about other project, you'll find any number of items. I thought I'll try to concise you whenever you need to relook at your recordings. Please go through the recordings a number of times. No problem at all. There is no more question, guys. Then probably I'll stop for the day. I'll allow you to have, a lot of people must be hungry for dinner, though I'm not sure. I still have one more session to go separately, but yeah, I wish you all the best, guys. Try to convert your projects in this way, in this format. Probably try to have apply those knowledge areas. Try to, those who are not PMP certified, go ahead into the PMP. So ProThoughts does good amount of certification, by the way. So this is what a ProThoughts is all about, right? If you look at this slide, this is all what ProThoughts does primarily. It does, many of you know ProThoughts anyway. So there's a lot of certification. PMP is a core certification, do Agile certification, Discipline Agile is already started off, etc. Go to Reach Content as well. We have a separate website for that. And that's this particular website which we talk about, right? Talkprojectmanagement.com, where you find lots of good information around. Okay, so if there are no more questions, then so much. Have an excellent day ahead, evening ahead, and have a good week ahead.